This is you without Collaborator. Invisible, just another seagull. And this is you with Collaborator. Get noticed in the AI era.
Wix Studio, one end-to-end web creation platform for your agency to deliver exceptional work with absolute efficiency.
Online visibility is not luck, it's a strategy. Combine SEO, digital PR, and content distribution to grow. Visit EdgeSEO.com to learn more.
Thank you everyone for choosing this session. So whether you're tackling the classic SEO challenges or you're venturing out into the wild west of GEO, ideas don't win, because at the end of the day, only what's actually in production counts. And I'm sure most of you who are here have encountered situations where you've had a really great idea of something that's going to bring about a great impact in terms of SEO, but you found it to be an uphill struggle in terms of getting that out into production on the site. It's something that does come up time and time again. So to start off, I would like to take a moment to just have a think about some of the obstacles that we tend to run into. I personally like to break them down into technical roadblocks and organizational ones. And you'll see why I make that distinction as I go through my presentation. So if we start with the technical ones, these are going to be issues like CMS limitations. It could be that there's something that you want to do that the CMS is going to make really difficult to implement. That's going to be then something that you might need to raise a ticket for with a development team, for argument's sake, to try and get that implemented on the site. And when you do that, you're going to run into the next roadblock, which is that the dev team have all sorts of competing priorities, from bug fixes to new feature releases. And so your SEO ticket there could end up in a backlog for some time before you actually see that being pushed out onto the site. And add to this another one, which is that we might run into code freezes that come at the worst possible time for you. So at the moment, we're a few weeks away from Black Friday. And let's just imagine for a moment that you find there's an issue, an SEO issue on the site that you'd like to fix before Black Friday comes along. There could already be a code freeze in place that's going to make it much harder to resolve that issue. And therefore, you might find that you're kind of held hostage to this issue that you've identified but are unable to fix. So moving on to the organizational roadblocks, you're going to find things here like a lack of comprehension in other teams, both in terms of SEO techniques in general, but also kind of the nitty-gritty of what you're proposing to do to bring about good SEO results. On your part, you're going to often encounter difficulty predicting the exact impact that you're going to bring about. So you might be absolutely convinced that what you're proposing is going to have a positive impact, but unless you're able to really put a number to that, it could be difficult for you to sell that to other stakeholders. And in some organizations, you're also going to run into an attitude that's maybe a bit like, if it's not broken, let's not try to fix it. Or perhaps there's a fear of negative outcomes from previous SEO work that's maybe not had the desired impact or even backfired to some extent. So, how can we overcome these barriers? Today, I'm going to present two methods that really fit very snugly hand in hand. I cannot really stress enough how complementary the two approaches are. So you've got EdgeSEO on the one hand, and that's going to really help you smash down those technical barriers. And then you've got test and learn, which works really well in conjunction with EdgeSEO. Before I go any further, I do just want to provide what I hope to be a really visual definition of EdgeSEO, because I'm afraid it might be becoming a kind of buzzword that we hear more and more regularly. And I do just want to make sure that we're all on the same page about what we mean when we talk about EdgeSEO before I go into any of the use cases. So I think the first question we need to ask is, what actually is the edge in EdgeSEO? And to answer that one, we need to just take a step back and have a think about the cloud as a concept in general. So it used to be that, say, 10, 15 years ago, your average website would be stored on a server in one particular location in a physical, in one particular city somewhere around the world. But today, most websites have a CDN layer. So I've put 3 examples up here. I'm sure you've heard of them all before. But it's really thanks to the CDN layer that a lot of websites today can claim to be part of a cloud ecosystem. And it's the CDN there that's allowing the site to have a very large geographical coverage and really having a point of presence in pretty much every major city around the world. And as I'm sure you've all heard, every cloud has a silver lining. It transpires that pretty much every CDN that's out there allows you to implement scripts of some description. So those can be called workers or edge functions. Sometimes they're called lambdas. It really depends. The exact terminology there really depends on which of the CDNs we're talking about. But these are scripts that are usually written in JavaScript. And just to be absolutely clear, they run in the cloud, not on the user's browser. Additionally, the CDNs are going to allow you to deploy these scripts very selectively. So you can generally set them up so they run against certain URL patterns. You might want to have them run on all of the pages on the site, or you might be able to use the URLs to target just the product lists, category pages, or the product pages themselves. So pages can effectively be rewritten right at the edge of that cloud. You can think of those scripts as sitting on that silver lining there and rewriting content just before it's pushed out to the end users. So I've mentioned the CDNs. You've got the 3 examples there. But increasingly, there are some sort of purpose-built solutions that allow you to achieve this as well. And at Fasterise, we have developed an EdgeSEO platform that allows you to do just that. So increasingly, there are more options that mean that you don't have to just rely on what's available through the CDN. So imagine being able to deploy, rewrite, index pages in record time without having to rely on changes in the CMS or get dev teams involved. I'm going to go on now to share 5 really exciting EdgeSEO use cases with you. So the first one I have is a real classic. It comes up whenever there's some kind of big sale event going on. Typically, the CMS is going to make it reasonably easy to add the promotional visuals to the different pages, but you're going to run into difficulties getting that promotion reflected in page titles and headings on the pages, and syncing that all up so that it happens just as the event goes live. But if you're using an EdgeSEO workflow, you can essentially say in the script, we're going to look for this visual element on the page. which could be a graphical element, or it could be something as simple as the product price that's being crossed out with a new price underneath. And you can say in the script, when we find that element on the page, that's when we're going to start rewriting other elements, like the page title or the headings. So the benefit there is that as soon as that promotion goes live, that's translated into the changes in the page title that's going to be visible from the results page. And once the event's over, they're going to revert automatically as well. You're not going to have to do anything manually there. The next use case I've got is all about structured data, and there's two versions of this story. So the first example I've got on the slide here, we can imagine that if you're selling shoes, for argument's sake, you want to try and get as many of the product attributes into the structured data as possible. So I'm talking about things like the material that the shoes are made of, the shoe size, and whether it's lace-up or Velcro, for argument's sake. Those are all things that, once they're in the product data, in the structured data, sorry, product searches are going to allow the users to more easily filter for what they're looking for. And what we find time and time again is that there is some structured data on the product pages, but there's some missing variables there that could be more useful for filtering. Those elements usually are present in the page content. They just haven't made their way into the structured data there. So using EdgeSEO, you can pick out those various pieces of information that are on the product pages and sew them into a new schema.org type structured data that's going to be more easily interpreted in product searches. And the B side of this example, if you like, is that you can do the same thing with Q&As. So if you have a question and answer section on the pages, you can actually have an EdgeSEO script that will transform that dynamically into a kind of structured data there. And that brings me on to the next use case, which is what we can do is we can actually go as far as saying, if an AI bot visits the page with its respective user agent, we're actually not going to send them the full HTML content that we normally would, because it's going to be cluttered with lots of things like scripts, perhaps ads, other visual elements that are really going to confuse the AI crawlers there and distract them from the key content that we want them to ingest. So we can use EdgeSEO to target those user agents and transform just a select number of items in the page content, like the titles and descriptions, into markdown that they're then going to be able to better consume and hopefully regurgitate a bit like a parrot to their users. We can also tackle internal meshing use cases. So that's where you want to cross-reference different categories on your site. So if we use the shoe example again, you might want to link from men's shoes to product categories like men's shirts. And again, there's an alternative version of this story, which is that maybe you've written articles like, what are the best shoes for a wedding, or indeed, what are the best shoes to wear for a talk at BrightonSEO. So you can essentially define within an Edge script a number of priority articles or pages that you want to link to. And when a user goes on to a related category, that block can be dynamically injected into the page before it's served. And the last example I have for you here, this one's a bit more ambitious, but it is something that we have implemented for a couple of our clients. We found that they were hosting product reviews on third-party platforms like Bazaar Voice or Trustpilot. And the problem there is that those reviews are generally rendered on the client side with JavaScript. And so it's a shame because the bots and AI agents are not really picking up on these glowing reviews on the product pages. They're not visible to them at all. So what we can do with EdgeSEO is we can harvest the product reviews via an API, for example, as the page is being processed there, and inject them and make them appear as if they were server-side all along. And that way the bots and AI agents aren't going to be able to ignore them, and hopefully those glowing reviews are going to be translated into some of the responses that they're going to give when queried. So, after you've implemented your SEO optimizations on the edge, the next stage is test and learn. And I've got some golden rules about how that should be run. So the first one here is always test before you deploy. There are lots of different ways you might be able to approach this. So it could be that there's a staging environment that you can test on. Or you might be able to set a rule whereby you're only going to get the EdgeSEO version if you include some kind of query string in the URL, so that you are able to go on the site and test everything thoroughly before that goes live. I also really recommend that you start small and aim big. So that means picking a handful of pages that you want to test your Edge script on. So you might, in the case of the shoe example, you might pick 5 different shoes and implement the script on those ones first before rolling it out to the whole product category. Once you've done that on a small sample of pages, you can then measure the impact. And the thing is that EdgeSEO is really going to unlock the potential there to deploy things in record speed. And therefore, you should be able to very quickly pick up on the impact and measure that. Once you have that data, you're then going to be able to go back and refine what you did on the edge. You might find that you want to tweak it a little bit. You can test lots of different versions of what you have in mind there and find the one that works best. And that's where the iteration comes on, because you may find that you go back and forth between test and learn and working on your EdgeSEO a couple of times before you decide to push that out across the site. You may also find that actually it didn't have the desired impact. And so the benefit here is that you can put a stop to that before it's gone live across the site, before you've gone beyond that initial sample of pages. And the last rule here, and this one is one I really advocate sticking to, make sure you've really spelt out your test and learn strategy. You might want to go as far as having a sort of one-page document for each SEO optimization you're pushing out. It's going to really help you go through the motions of deploying them, measuring, and then iterating. But it's also going to lend you a lot of credibility internally if anyone comes to you and says, okay, well, this is great, but how are you going to ensure that this doesn't have some kind of undesired consequence? So, are you ready to unleash your full SEO potential? By leveraging EdgeSEO in combination with test and learn, you're going to be able to avoid creating unnecessary work for the dev team and getting your tickets stuck in their backlog. You'll be able to fine-tune your SEO optimizations on a small group of pages before they go live across the site, limiting any fallout from an ineffective change in the process. And you're going to gain loads of valuable insights in the process in a completely controlled environment that are going to help you strengthen your case internally. So thank you very much. We're going to be at stand 60, and we'll be happy to discuss any of the use cases that I've shared with you today. And if you have any of your own challenges that you're curious to see whether we can approach from an EdgeSEO angle, please come and see us. We'll be happy to find a solution for you and demo our EdgeSEO solution. Thank you very much.
Monthly reporting making you want to shove sharp things up your nose? Try Dragon Metrics, the all-in-one SEO software with mind-blowing reporting tools.
Wait, do you want free ice cream, or do you want to know the latest in how search behaviour is changing? If it's the latter, download Search Pulse by Reflect Digital. Get that now.
DemandSphere. Limitless visual insights from the SERPs. Unlimited dashboards and users. Easy to use and easy to scale your growth to new levels.
You've got two blind spots, keyword rankings and LLM visibility. Now, most tools solve one, but AccuRanker solves both. See how at booth number 18.